In this video, I'm going to teach you how to add entourage in Revit. And so we're going to add some basic site elements such as grass, trees, and a street, as well as a sidewalk. And then we're going to add some entourage elements such as a car and a person to give a sense of scale. Now, the first thing I'm going to do to create this rendering is I'm going to place my camera view because I want to know exactly what I'm going to see in this rendering so that I don't do any more work than necessary, and also so that I have a good idea of how this is going to look as I'm creating the view. So I'm going to go to the camera view here, and I'm going to create a rendering with the camera here and then looking this way. Now I can always adjust this a little bit if I have to, but for right now, that's the view I'm going to go with. And you can see it here. I actually think I'm going to back out just a little bit. So I'm going to go back to the plan, delete that camera view, and I'm going to pull back just a little bit more. Okay, that's a little bit more like it. So I'm going to go ahead and hide some of the things in view that will be causing a bit of a distraction. Okay, and so that's our rendering that we're going to start with. Now, I have gone already, because it takes a little time, and gone to the design plan, and I've created a floor. Now, we're going to create the grass that this building is sitting on. Then we're going to create the sidewalk leading up to the building, another little patch of grass, and then the actual street where the cars are going to be. So the thing about this is, of course, that the professional version of Revit at the time of this recording had grass and asphalt and sidewalk finishes, but the student version does not have those. So I had to create a material in my material library for these as well. So when you're in the real world, you might get a copy of the site plan or topographical map and some information from the civil engineer. But if you don't have that information, you're just trying to create a really quick rendering, you can bring in site elements basically just as their own floor. And so I began by just creating this floor right here, which I'm going to unhide now. Oh, what's going on? Let's try one more time. Okay, so all I did was I went to architecture, floor, and then I created a new floor. I want it on level 1, and I want it to be 1 inch thick. I used a series of lines and arcs to create this shape because I wanted something kind of organic. Maybe the employees here are going to walk around, this grass or pathway on their lunch break. So it's got a real soft curve to it. But I'm going to go to edit type, and I'm going to duplicate and create a new material, and this will be grass. Okay, so now I'm going to change it from carpet, which is what that floor finish layer was, and I have already created a grass layer, and you can see here I've set the appearance and the size to be 3 feet. Okay, so I'm going to grab that again. And when I hit my green checkbox, let's go ahead and, so I've already created this floor, so it's not going to let me do another one. But you can create one and just kind of try to mimic that shape. So I'm going to hit yes, and then all I'm going to do is just change this. See if it'll let me since I've already got a couple floors going on. Okay, so that should be green. Let's take a look at it in our 3D view and switch this over to realistic. And we should see some green right there. Good. Okay, while I'm at it, I'm going to change this view and rename it to exterior perspective because as you've learned, I like to make a lot of camera views, and I don't suspect I'm going to make too many more, but I definitely don't want to lose track of this one because I want to be able to quickly reference back and forth to it. Okay, let's go back to that design plan, and I'm going to now make another floor. So I'll go to architecture, floor, and then I'm just going to create this floor by picking lines. Okay, and I'm going to now offset by 42 inches because I'm going to create a sidewalk now. Okay, now for this, I actually don't want to offset these. I want it to kind of create a little arc right there. So I'm going to grab from here to here and create that arc. Okay, now hit the escape button and I'm going to do edit type. And I'm going to call this sidewalk. And we're going to do concrete cast in place. Okay, so now we've got our sidewalk. And I'm going to do another offset with a different floor. And I'm going to actually create a little bit of carpet again, or pardon me, a little bit of grass again between the sidewalk here and the street. So again, once again, floor. And we can do it something different, maybe 60 inches this time. We've got a nice big site. And that's just so that people can walk on the grass and not have cars like zooming right up against them. Okay. And we're going to call this one grass once again. So it's asking me that because you can see this floor is on level 2. It needs to be on level 1. And if I had to guess, that's probably why I got that message before with this one. So we'll change that to level 1. Okay. So now what we can do is just create again one more offset to have this sort of winding pathway around for the cars. I could also do it, you know, a little bit straight if I wanted things to be a little bit more boring, and I can show you that as well, just so that there's not maybe so much winding around here. But we can do architecture, floor architectural once again. And let's go ahead and offset. I'm going to pick lines. Now a street, again, I'm not a civil engineer, but they're about, I don't know, 20 feet or so wide for cars going both ways. So we will go ahead and offset that line 20 feet. Again, there's no way that an interior designer would probably be drawing most of this, but at least, you know, we'll be able to create a nice rendering for it. Oops, I created 2 floors. Hold on, I'm gonna undo that. One more time. Okay, so for this one, we are actually going to bring this down once again, and then I'm going to edit type once more. And I'm going to get this to be asphalt. And it looks like I need to reassign this. Okay, so we've got our cars there. And then finally, I don't even think we'll be able to see it in the rendering. Let's check. We'll see just a little bit of grass right here. So let's go ahead and finish our last series of lines. And now you've got some nice landscaping right there. But we are not done yet. What we need to do now is I'm going to go ahead and add some trees. And so you can see, you know, probably a good place to put some trees would be right here, because that's going to give a little softness to that edge and fill in the negative space. Again, this comes down to composition. And then I'm going to put a series of shrubs kind of in front of that plinth to soften it up a little bit. And so the best place to do that is, again, within the design plan. And so all you do is go to component and place a component. And we're going to load the family. The plants and things are right here. So you've got your choice here. Let's go ahead and put some shrubs in. And I'm going to put them here. They're a little bit hard to see because of the grass. Again, this would likely be in the purview of a landscape architect, but in the interest of a beautiful, lush looking rendering, it's fun to do these. Just always be mindful when you're doing landscaping that you don't, block doors and things like that. And you're gonna see just a little corner of this right here. So I'm gonna just put a couple shrubs right there. And now that I've got some shrubs in there, I'm going to put a couple of trees over in this corner. Let me just put one more over here. And they have a lot of different kinds of trees that you can use. And it gives the heights here, which can be very helpful. I want to put a really big tree right there. And I don't even know if this would grow wherever, in this location, but I just really, like I said, I just want the rendering to look really good. So let's take a look at it, see how it's looking so far. Okay, so there's our tree and our shrubs. Beautiful. You can see that the shrubs are out of place, so I'm going to go ahead and grab all of those and rehost them. So let's go ahead and I'll show you how to do that now. And then same thing here, pick new host and just select. Let's take a look now. Okay, so now they're on the ground where they're supposed to be. And I may just put another little tree right in front. Once again, needs to be rehosted so we can see it. Okay, so now that we have our landscaping in place, I want to add a couple of other scale elements. And we don't have a lot to choose from, but let's go ahead and once again do place a component. We're going to load family. And I'm going to go to Entourage right here, and I'm going to put, we don't have a lot of options for cars, and you don't want to have a bunch of Revit families in here for cars because they are rather large. You can start to Photoshop these things in later, which we'll learn, but for right now, we've got the choice between a Beetle, a semi-truck, and a van. I'm going to go ahead and just put the Beetle in, and I'm hitting the space bar to switch the direction. So I'm going to put it right there because it's going to help give a sense of scale of how large this building is, because most of us know how large a Volkswagen Bug is. So once again, maybe one of these times I'll learn. This needs to be hosted, rehosted. I don't know. I'm not really sure why everything is coming up on the wrong layer, but luckily this is not a very long process, so I won't lose patience very quickly. Let's take a look at it once more. Okay. So there's our bug. I'm actually going to bring it just a little bit closer in the view, because again, I don't want it to look so far away, but I also don't want it to be distracting. I mean, it is yellow after all. Do we get to change the color? Let's see. Isn't that neat? All right. Okay, one more look. Okay, so now it's a little bit closer in view and less distracting, so that will look wonderful. And then the only other thing that we need for a sense of scale is some people. And once again, Revit doesn't have a lot to choose from. So what we can do is just go to our design plan once again. And these are components just like anything else. And we've got a male and a female. So we'll put the female in. And let's host her on level 1. Okay, so we'll put her right there. And then we'll load family and grab Dwayne. You can see his name is right there. And then we'll go ahead and put him right there. And let's see how Cynthia and Dwayne look. Okay, so Cynthia is sitting down, so we can put her sitting on the steps. Reading a file, and we've got Dwayne waiting for his car. And so this is our finished view for now, and you can see it's moving really slow because already we've got a bunch of stuff in there that's taking up you know, it's taking up weight and making the drawing function slowly. So, but right now that is the realistic camera view for our exterior perspective, and it's off to a really good start. Looks great.